Hi everyone, welcome to another WHIR webinar. I'm Liam Eagle, I'm the Editor-in-Chief here at the Web Host Industry Review, and I'll be moderating today's session, which is called Selling Cloud Services to Small Businesses, and will be presented by John McCarrick, who is a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Parallels, and I'll let him introduce himself properly in a moment. I'd like to start out with just a quick idea of how the webinar is going to operate. In a moment, we'll begin the presentation, which will include, John's going to discuss the issue through a PowerPoint, but rather than stick right to the script, I'll be asking a few questions as we go through. We've reserved some time at the end for questions from attendees, but you can feel free to submit your questions throughout the presentation, and there's a function for doing that in the webinar control panel. And if questions come in as the discussion goes on that are really super relevant to what's happening at just that moment, I will try to find a good time to bring it up when I have a chance. I'd like to let everyone know that it is possible that we'll get too many questions to answer during the course of the session, and if you submit a question that isn't answered during the webinar, don't worry, we will keep a record of all the questions, and John will be able to follow up after the fact on a sort of individual basis, and we'll have contact information up near the end of the on screen near the end of the presentation. So if you want to reach out to John privately after the fact, you can certainly do that too. I guess to start out, I'd like to introduce John McCarrick and maybe give him a chance to describe his roles or the objectives of Parallels and whatever else he'd like to tell you.
Okay, thanks for introducing me, Liam. I am John McCarrick, and I'm the partner marketing manager and product marketing manager for all of our panels products at Parallels. But I also work very closely with a lot of our partners on developing material for their websites and working with them on business plans about new products they want to offer. And so by the way of background, I come to Parallels from Modern Gigabyte, where I worked on our Modern Bill product. So I know the introductory level of the small business hosting market pretty well. I've seen just about every single kind of hosting that there is out there. And I feel like that we're going to bring some of those ideas together, coalesce a couple ideas about selling specifically to small businesses in this program. I think that will be very useful.
Okay,
Do we want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm going to hand over sort of control of the webinar to John so we can sort of start letting you guys view the presentation. And I don't know if you want me to start out by asking you a question here, but I think the first thing to start with would be great to talk about sort of the market opportunity for service providers among small businesses. I know that you guys at Parallels have done some research recently to research internally to sort of identify some of these areas of growth and areas of opportunity among small businesses.
Yeah, matter of fact, we'll go ahead and click on the first slide here. So a couple of thoughts on the small business opportunity. First thing we got to recognize right off the top is it's a huge market. As you can see from the statistics here, which come from the Census Bureau, 98% of all businesses, all firms, are actually small businesses. And a small business is one that's described as being between 1 and 100 employees. And actually, when you look inside of that number even, there's a really large subset that between 1 and 10 employees is about 65% of all of those businesses. So we're talking about a huge portion of the populace out there is working for a small business or owns a small business, and these guys have IT needs that are just now starting to be addressed by our market. And within these companies, there is generally only 1 or 2 people who are the decision makers in this company when it comes to IT, and typically it's the owner. He's got a team of 10 people. He needs to make sure that they have email, and he wants to have a website, and he wants to do a couple of things, but he doesn't really have a whole lot of knowledge there. If he's lucky, if his business has grown to where it might be closer to that 100 number, he probably has, can afford 1 IT person, but that IT person is going to be completely overwhelmed. That person is going out and he's setting up the printer and setting up all the desktops and making sure everybody's got the latest security software on their PCs and issuing laptops and maybe even managing who gets what kind of cell phone and all kinds of things. And setting up the website, maintaining email addresses is a real big pain for them. So that is, kind of what we're looking at here is this addressable market of people who are fairly non-technical, or if they have a technical nature, they're completely overwhelmed. And so, and as a matter of fact, you can see here we have listed more than half of all small businesses have no IT person at all. Generally, the way that the internal systems got set up, if they have them, is that they hired a consultant who's usually just a friend. He comes in and does some things for a couple of hours and then leaves the business. And maybe if there's a question, they call this guy. But generally, they try to figure it out on their own. And as we start to look at how these guys are going to adopt cloud solutions, you have to recognize right off the top that most of them would not be able to afford a cloud solution at all, but for the fact that there are companies like yours that are willing to sell them something. Because they just simply do not have the ability to get the IT in place. If we get inside the numbers, and you can see just in sort of dollars and cents kind of a way, that according to IDC, there's going to be a 600% growth amongst SMBs selling IT services or buying IT services from the cloud. This is a huge, huge, huge opportunity. As a matter of fact, we're going to see in a slide or two from now that it's in many billions of dollars of revenue, and the question is whether or not the hosting companies that have the opportunity now to jump on this will do it.
Hey, John, can I ask you a question about that? Now, when you were sort of describing the struggle with IT services that a lot of small businesses have, I guess when you say buying services from the cloud, I know there's a bit of an overlap there between what somebody would consider hosted services and what somebody would consider the cloud, or what parallels might consider the cloud. But how much penetration do those hosted services have among that huge chunk of businesses that you described earlier as being sort of the vast percentage of businesses in the U.S. or businesses in the world?
I don't get too terribly tied up about what the definition of cloud services is, because I have to be frank with you. I talk to a lot of guys who are small business owners just in my day-to-day walk, and I try to mention to them what it is that I do for a living. And when I mention anything about cloud computing, they don't know what I'm talking about. And so these same small businesses are the ones that we're trying to sell something to. And we'll talk in a few minutes, I think, about what kinds of things to sell them. But the fact of the matter is the thing that they're buying is not cloud computing. There is a market of people out there who buy cloud computing. They're developers. They are people who are hyper-technical. But the largest addressable audience is not those people. The largest addressable audience is these small businesses who are non-technical. And so we have to sell them things they understand.
Well, let's set that definition aside for a moment. I meant more in the terms of selling just any hosted service to small businesses. Is there a very large penetration of, let's say, website hosting, but really basic website hosting among small businesses, or is that something a lot of them are looking to buy? Or, I mean, is that pretty much tapped as a market, email and collaboration?
I don't think it's a tap market in terms of even just website presence. But as we look at website presence itself is changing. It's becoming more sophisticated. There are things that people now understand that they need to have as part of their website presence, whether that's blogging software, or it's social networking tools, or it's an online shopping cart, or any number of other sophisticated tools that they can add to that website presence. It's not simply about some HTML that resides on some FTP account someplace that they uploaded using FileZilla. It's now about how can I use this to really extend the reach of my business. And so there's a huge room there for people who are offering better solutions. But then, we do have to look at what are the basic needs. And frankly, the basic needs are things like email. The basic needs are things like collaboration tools. And that's kind of the market that, as we switch from just selling websites to selling solutions to small businesses, we have to think, how are they actually going to use this product that I'm going to sell them?
So I guess,
and so when we talk about cloud, we really switched around the mindset of what services will my end user use if I sell it to them.
right. This is something that I wanted to bring up because it came up frequently at the Parallel Summit that happened at the end of February 2 weeks ago. But you guys described a sort of new situation where you see certain specific buckets into which that SMB opportunity that you were just describing can be divided, or that is, there are different kinds of services, that cloud services, so to speak, that you can provide to small businesses.
Right. And so I don't have that slide with this deck, but what you're talking about is we're essentially switching our mode from being product-oriented to being services-oriented, and we've identified 4 types of services that are the types of services that most people will buy. And the first is a web presence, a shared hosting, which is what we were just describing, which is not just some HTML, but some HTML with some functionality that's tied to it. And then the next section was messaging collaboration, which is our email collaboration, SharePoint, Hosted Exchange, Open Exchange, Smarter Mail, all of these collaboration type tools. Then, of course, we have virtualization, and virtualization can take many forms. We have, as Parallels, we actually have the fortune of having all the different kinds of virtualization covered in terms of our bare metal product for hypervisors, and our Virtuoso Containers product for OS virtualization. But we can now tie that virtualization to a lot of different use cases, including things like virtual desktop and those sorts of things, as well as just trying to create VPSs for individual consumption. And then on the last side was our SaaS and applications area, where we go for full out SaaS provisioning, helping large ISVs reach the small hosting companies and get into the business. And that includes things like our new marketplace that's inside of Small Business Panel. It includes things like our SaaS module inside of our Parallels automation product. And what we're saying is that for each one of those groups, we've decided to put a head person, one of our key technology people, in charge of giving a fundamental overview to that product area. And so we now have one person who's in charge of shared hosting, which is Craig Bartholomew. I work very closely with Craig, and he's not only in charge of our Parallels Plus panel product, our small business panel product, but he's also in charge of, in our Parallels automation world, he's got the shared hosting module, our upcoming high-density hosting module. So he has to make sure that the experience for that end customer is fairly consistent across all shared hosting experiences throughout our product area.
Okay.
So I have up on the screen a survey that we did back in November. The survey was across a lot of our different partners. We asked them to pass this on to their end users. And what we found out was that 85% of the end customers that those partners have today are already small businesses. They're businesses with between 1 and 100 employees. So the question to be asked is, do you have small business customers today? The answer is, of course you do. The real question you have to ask yourself is, are you selling them something that they're willing to buy? I think we all have been very lucky because we have been given a pass in that there has been no single company that has come out and made it very easy for small businesses to buy these kind of infrastructure products. From the point of view of just understanding the value proposition. We all get very tied up about selling gigabytes and megabytes and this feature or that feature, but not really the fundamental values of why these people are buying. The other thing I wanted to mention here is, as we did our internal research, we found out that more than 50% of all Parallels Plus panel units that are shipped today, in other words, whole servers or VPSs, have fewer than 10 domains on them. And what that means is that those servers are not being utilized today by people who are in the shared hosting business. They're being utilized by small businesses. And so when we saw that, we saw an opportunity there to really service this industry. And so there's a functional mindset difference when we're talking about all these shared hosting products we're going to be bringing out over the next year and really making them very functional for the small businesses who are going to use them at the end of the day. Current products are really very technical, very hyper-technical, lots of budget, lots of bells and whistles, lots of gadgets, lots of buttons to push. Most small businesses don't want that. They wanted something that's simple and easy to use.
Hey, John, I know you said that there was no one who sort of outright made it easy for everyone and sort of captured that entire market. But are there companies out there who, in a small way or in a medium-sized amount of success, have been addressing small businesses' needs in a way that is really well suited to what the small business needs?
I think there's one company that's really starting to show that leadership in that area, and that is the Intuit.com, the people who make QuickBooks. Everybody's seen their television commercials, and they're really getting to the heart of what it is that a small business wants out of their website presence. Another company that's doing a fairly good job is GoDaddy. Their focus has been on domains up until now, but you're starting to see a switch in their marketing to really feature business solutions. And I've seen a number of websites of our partners who are starting to really feature these business solutions much better than they've been. But in terms of major players, those two are really stand out right now.
Okay, and in terms of I guess the role you envision for service providers dealing with small businesses, do you see certain service providers, I mean, when I say you, I mean you personally, and I guess Parallels as an organization, do you see service providers dealing with a certain aspect of small businesses' needs, or do you see service providers orienting themselves to provide everything that a small business needs, or is that even possible?
No, I think that the idea behind the solution we're trying to present right now is that there are many, many features of their internal IT that can be now outsourced. And the change that we're trying to make for those small businesses, that you no longer need to have that internal IT person, let's outsource as much of this as you possibly can. And that, of course, includes their email functionality, it includes their collaboration functionality, their website, their ability to share files and so forth, so that they don't have to maintain a large infrastructure. And frankly, the companies that we're talking about here, it's not an option for them. If we're talking about a company that has 10 employees, they don't have the ability to host an exchange easily. They don't have the ability to, turn on the kinds of services that they need quickly. And so the solutions that really need to be presented is within 5 or 10 minutes, I can turn up these solutions for about $50 to $100 a month. And what you have to look at is, what is the replacement value? The replacement value is the buying of a server, buying of the software license, the upkeep on those software licenses, the person to implement it. It's to be quite daunting. So it's not like they really have a choice here. They have to outsource it.
Okay. Well, I know you didn't want this presentation to be a real sales pitch, but I would love to talk about specifically how the SMB panel product that you guys launched recently, or actually not that recently anymore, but the SMB panel product that you guys have been promoting, how does that specifically go about, or how is that specifically designed around the needs that you've identified among small businesses?
Yeah, so I've got this slide up here. These are kind of internally the aggregate of all of the different kinds of services we think that small businesses need. And what we're telling our partners is that it's your decision as to which products here to bundle up, but you need to bundle them up. You need to sell them for a single price, and you need to make that choice as easy as possible. And really it depends on what kind of markets they're going to go after and how they're going to advertise to those markets, because it doesn't have to all be web advertising. You can really advertise in the real world for these kind of products. That's where small businesses will find you. Which of these products can you offer? Well, you can offer all of them. And I want to note here, this is a huge opportunity, and we're going to just about double the amount of spend for SMBs on these, from $10 billion out to $18 billion. this is a huge opportunity to really grow your business, and these guys are just now really starting to understand why they should outsource these things. So I want to talk, well, you asked specifically, and we're going to skip down here, about what the small business panel is. The thing that we're doing for our partners as we go forward here is we want to be very clear about why they should be offering these products to their customers. And so this is the messaging we have developed on behalf of our partners that they can use with their end users. And the features that we're talking about here are the fact that this is a really super simple interface. What we did was we took the interface and we made it completely jargon-free. I like to refer to it as a jargon-free zone. We took in all the technical words that could possibly be on the page and reduced them down to simple functionality. Now, despite the fact that this has been simplified, it doesn't mean any of the features have been removed. Matter of fact, in a lot of cases, the features have simply been suppressed back into an advanced settings tab where most customers won't ever care to go look for it. And what we assume is in things like setting up a website that they don't know how many megabytes and gigabytes and whether they need PHP or CGI. What they typically will do when they get to a regular control panel interface is accept whatever the default amounts are. And so we've assumed that they'll accept those default amounts, and we've set them in. On top of that, this product is different in the sense that it's not just a control panel, but it really has tried to extend itself out to be a employee management tool. So first thing is there's a kind of a roles feature where you can assign different management roles within the system, and depending on who that person is, they get access to various things. And then secondarily, we can now launch tons of different applications really easily, and we can assign access to those applications based on those roles. So it's really even more powerful than what we've had in the past. And then we've added some file sharing and collaboration tools right into the product so that, for no additional cost, they can start doing some collaborative work on files and so forth. And then finally, it of course saves these small businesses money as they move into the cloud because, as we mentioned earlier, they don't have to maintain that extra person. They don't have to have an IT person. They can put this all out on the cloud. And when we talk about the difference of, we talk about pricing differences, we'll say, well, do they really need to price this thing really super low? No, you can actually charge a few extra bucks for this thing because these customers are comparing it against what they otherwise have to do. So the difference between $70 and $75 is not as great as it is between $70 and the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month that you might have to have for having somebody to operate whatever internal infrastructure you get. So it's a huge bargain for them. For our service providers, why is it great? Well, we think that this particular product, all by itself, creates a whole new category that just about every hoster should have, which is a small business product. What they call it a small business VPS, or where they call it a small business dedicated server, or whatever. This product is designed so that you can specifically address that small business market and tell them exactly what it is that they need to do. Secondarily, it's going to help them increase revenue because it has this new Parallels Marketplace thing tied inside of it, where we're going to actually sell applications through the system to your end customers with no extra effort on your part. Because the fact of the matter is that we've fully automated the sale of those applications. We've already made the vendor relationships. There's a vendor relationship with 6 vendors right now. I'll talk about this in a second, but the fact of the matter is this creates a whole new revenue source that is after the sale. In most cases, when you've sold a VPS or dedicated server, you finish the sale once the customer is gotten. They don't come back for more anything because they've got the whole server, they've got the whole VPS. What else can I sell them? Well, this is a post-sale revenue opportunity. And finally, this is really starting to spearhead this adoption of the cloud, because really what we're talking about for a small business, this satisfies their need to be in the cloud. And they're starting to understand what this remote access to resources and applications is all about. And you can turn up and turn down the amount of resources, especially when we're talking about VPSs, that this customer has. And so we really have a very solid cloud offering for you to start delivering to small businesses. Is it cloud compute? No, it's cloud services.
Hey, John.
The product is gaining a ton of momentum right now. Lots of our larger partners have taken up on the product. Just as recently as the summit, we were announcing GoDaddy and the Planet, but as you can see, we're really starting to build quite a quality following here of people who are adopting the product. And I want to take a moment to talk about what it's not and how it differs from what we've done before. It's not a shared hosting product. It's taken all of the technical mumbo-jumbo that really makes it, Parallels Plus Panel great for shared hosting out. It really simplifies it down. It's really designed for novices. This is not a really complicated interface. And go on our website and you trial the demo. It's a playable demo. You can launch an instance for yourself and go play with it at parallels.com. You're going to find that it's really, really super simple for anybody. Matter of fact, it passes what I call the grandmother test. My mother, who's the grandmother for my children, I handed her a system. I said, I want you to go ahead and set up a website and actually put it together, like the HTML and everything. And she was able to do it in about 20 minutes. I thought, that's phenomenal. Here's a woman who practically knows nothing, and she was able to WYSIWYG her way through to the creation process. And finally, it's licensed differently. It's licensed according to the number of users. It's not domain-based licensing, it's user-based licensing, which is what small businesses are used to. They buy their licenses by the seat, and this is exactly how we're selling it with this product.
Hey, John.
Mm-hmm.
If I can see how this product set might be something that if I were to start a hosting provider today, that might be a great market for me to target and a great way for me to target that market. If I have, and I think, let's say, on your list of companies that were going, seeing some growth with this product, I'll use Softcom because they're right down the street from me, and they're kind of in the wheelhouse of what I'm thinking about. If you have shared hosting accounts, maybe some VPS, maybe some dedicated kind of customers who may or may not be small businesses right now, but you don't have necessarily a product that is super tailored around the idea of these kind of small business services that you're describing, I mean, is that an easy switch over to make, or is that a really complicated thing to introduce to your customers? What do you find in that regard?
Actually, we hope we were fairly confident about that exact problem. First of all, in terms of switching over, we actually created a migration tool that if you have shared hosting customers on one of our Parallels Plus panel, you can migrate them over to a VPS that has, or even dedicated server, but a VPS, which would be the logical next step for them, that has the small business panel on it, and it's a pretty automated transition for them. But yeah, we absolutely see a growth opportunity here for people who, have not had really a tool that's tailored for these people and be able to migrate them up to something that really works for them. What we're also saying is, in terms of response from our partners, is they feel that this will give them less churn because this product really has a stickiness factor to it. Because unlike other control panels, this product is really designed to be used day after day by their customer. Because it's so simple and because there's a lot of new functionality that they can use on a daily basis, they won't really want to leave for another product because they won't be able to get the functionality. So we really feel like this is the kind of product that will hold a customer longer. And we know that the average cost of acquisition for a customer can be anything up to 16 to 18 months before you realize on a recurring revenue basis a profit off of that customer. And so if you have a tool that keeps them around for an extra couple of months, that's all profit for you. And that's what this business is chasing. And and these small businesses are fairly loyal when they have a good service. They're not the kind of guys that are going to move just because some guy down the street has it 2 cents cheaper. They don't have the desire to rip up their technical implementations unless they absolutely have to. So we think we're addressing a market that's already pretty super sticky and giving them really super sticky tools. And yeah, we think that many people will upgrade to it.
Okay. I guess for people who, what about for customers who have, or sorry, for Parallels customers or potential Parallels customers who might consider deploying this product and might not necessarily have a really great understanding. Let's say they're strictly a shared hosting provider, and let's say they have, many thousands of customers, and they don't necessarily know specifically what those customers are using or would like to be using. Is it something where you can just sort of put this out there and anyone who wants to use it can, and that'll be profitable and beneficial to the provider? I mean,
yeah, well, the real question then comes down to marketing, doesn't it? One of the things that we've done as a company is, let me see if I can find this slide. Hold on a second. We have actually done a lot of work to help our partners really deliver an appropriate message. And so, we've actually been, beyond building great new products at Parallels, we've actually been building a great marketing team. And, we've recently moved to the Seattle area, and we've hired a bunch of really quality people from other organizations that are equally quality. And we've really built out some extra resources to start trying to help our partners, address these markets. And so we've built a bunch of content in our partner materials. You can go to PartnerNet inside at parallels.com, and we can, we've got pre-made templates for you to just pick up and use. We've got ready-to-go websites if you really need a whole piece that sells the whole thing. And then we're offering them training, and we're offering them free assessments. So we have a lot of things to bring to bear to help them get these products launched. We do think it's difficult for people to launch a new product, and so we want to make that as easy as possible.
Sure. I guess, I mean, are there, I guess when you were describing your mom sort of building a website, are there obvious examples where someone would maybe want to use the small business panel to run certain aspects of their IT operations, but not necessarily the website? Or is a website sort of a foundation for everything else?
Well, I think, if you're going to buy a solution like this, you're obviously considering your web presence to begin with, and that's probably the starting place for the conversation. Although I have to be honest with you, the number one thing that businesses want is email. And so one of the things that this really focuses on is how to easily create email addresses and how to easily manage them. If you go to a normal control panel setting, you're going to find that it's going to ask you about, how many aliases can this person have? What's their maximum amount of the maximum amount that they can hold? What's the log rotation look like? Blah 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 blah. And if I'm a dentist, I don't know. I just want to have some email for my employees. And so we've made it super simple. For instance, when you add a user, you assign them to a role, and it asks you what email address they have, and give them a password. And when you hit submit, their email address is created for them. They've been assigned to a role in your organization, giving them appropriate functionality on the front end. And what's different about this product is, if I slip back down to here, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen sort of what the employee view is. And basically, the employee view gives them access to their email. It gives them access to the file sharing system. It gives access to an employee list, which will list things like, where everybody's Skype address is, what their phone numbers, what their address is, and so forth. And then below, you can see that the person will be assigned to various applications that have been installed on the website and the back end. And not all of those applications are front-end facing. So your question is, what kind of functionality can I drive out of it? Well, there's literally hundreds of applications through our APS catalog, not all of which are going to be front-ward facing. As a matter of fact, if we go over to where the marketplace information is, come down here to talk about the applications we're releasing in Marketplace, the Intraspire Email Marketer and Contact Manager has nothing to do with the front side of your website. It has everything to do with collecting up CRM data about your customers and being able to regularly keep contact with them. the magic spam and keep it products aren't even server-based products. Those products actually get downloaded on the PC. So we really have the ability to sell them any kind of solution through this system. So yeah, it's more than just about the website presence. And could somebody use this product without even having to worry about their website presence? Sure, they could, but once they figure out that they've got a free site builder tool that will help them easily build out their website, there's no reason why they wouldn't build their web presence at that point.
Right, if they've already got the VPS or the dedicated server. I guess, is there, in terms of a service provider offering this to customers, charging them for it, paying parallels, I mean, do you have a really sort of standard model or something that, a way that you envision everybody charging for this, paying for this?
Actually, I've got a couple of examples that I kind of really like. And again, I'm going to refer to my jargon-free zone. First thing I'm going to do is kick up to, I'm sorry to jump around like this, folks, but we wanted to have this be more interactive and less of just a presentation. But I wanted to talk about this, that the target customer is completely non-technical. So the very first thing we have to do is we're trying to build out these plans is remove all that technical jargon. For instance, does your dentist know how many gigabytes or megabytes that they need? And I'll flip it around on you. You know, if you walked into your doctor's office and he told you had a myocardial infarction, would you know what he was talking about? And so that's how you sound as a provider to your customer when we talk about megabytes and gigabytes and cold fusion and PHP and all these wonderful things that developers care about, but a small business has no clue about. And there's a statement that says, the mind that does not know says no. They are confused. They will move on to the next provider who will make it less confusing for them. So we have to make it clear that they have a great offering here. You have to make sure that it's understood that you've got enough stuff to meet their need, but you've got to remove all that technical jargon. Second, the customer is willing to overpay. We talked about this a little bit, but hey, let's not make this the cheapest thing, because what we found, and I've personally been talking to literally thousands of hosting companies over my career because I was selling billing systems to the very smallest hosting companies, and every one of them wanted to do a gold, silver, bronze type packages. They wanted to offer it at, $15, $10, and $5. And what we found after looking at literally thousands of these guys is that almost to a company, customers only bought one of two kinds of programs. They bought the cheapest thing that was available, or they bought the most expensive thing that was available. And generally, they bought more. 90% of the people bought the cheapest thing, and 10% of the people bought the most expensive thing. And it didn't really matter what was in between, because the customers either wanted just enough to get their job done, or they wanted everything and didn't want to worry about it later as to whether they needed more. And so those are the two kinds of customers we see. So the cheaper you make your first-in product, the less profit you're going to make. And finally, these customers are different. These customers are different than your typical customers. They want to be talked to. They want to have communication with you. Do they want a lot of communication? No. They just want to know that somebody is there and is alive if, God forbid, something bad happened. But we all know that these systems are pretty bulletproof. They don't really break that frequently. And if they're using the small business panel, we've simplified so many things that there'll be very few reasons for them to call. We actually think this product will reduce the amount of support that our partners have on these kind of customers. And having said that, automation is great. We think you should fully automate your business, except for the part where you talk to them about how come they should buy. And training the staff is a key thing here. You need to have a fully trained staff that knows how to add on to the sale. We find that most of our larger partners, about 60% of their transactions get completed through online chat and telephone. And so, you really can do a lot of good for your business if you can get these guys on the phone and really add to that sale. So I want to look at some examples of what we're talking about. And the three examples I'm going to show you here are not in and of themselves the most wonderful, best ever, is there any other way to do it? Of course, there's about 1 million different ways to do it, but I wanted to look at some of these examples of ways to do it. I can say all these companies are fairly successful at their offerings, so that they're not horrible models. Otherwise, I wouldn't be showing them. But Turnkey Internet has done a wonderful job of presenting a VPS offering, which they don't even call a VPS offering. It's a perfect business server. It's $50. It simplifies website creation, email accounts, and staff management. And that's all it does. Really simple messages here. Jargon-free, no gigabytes, no megabytes. Second is our friends from Codero. And what they've done is they've separated out a whole page aside for describing our products. They've taken some information that we've given them and made a really snazzy website out of it to describe what the panel does. And finally, this one is from our friends at InfoQuest. They're launching a website now. As a matter of fact, it's just launched. It's called smallbusinesspanel.com. Lucky sons of guns got that website before you did. But they took our pre-made, ready-to-go website marketing plan, and they used it. And this is something that, there's a bunch of templates in the PartnerNet area. This is one of them. And this is some of the material that's in there. And we have it ready to go for anybody who really wants to turn on this business. Now, here's the really cool thing. Skip down to the bottom. Anybody who sells Parallels Plesk Panel today on VPSs or dedicated servers is ready to sell Small Business Panel right now, because we've used the same exact deployment systems, the same exact licensing systems. Everything's the same. All you have to do is decide to start using it. You go to PartnerNet, you get your information, and you start offering this out on your website. It's that easy. So it's not like we're talking about a huge jump for most of these guys to get in this business.
So John, if I'm seeing the examples that you used, I'm seeing that generally speaking they're charging $50 for a VPS with Small Business Panel on it. Is there,
Yep.
I mean, so how much are they paying for the panel? I mean, what's the equation there?
The pricing, and I didn't put the partner pricing in this particular deck, but I can certainly share it with anybody who's interested. But the partner pricing is actually very competitive. The way that we price this product is that the one user seat license is priced at the same as our 100-user Plesk license, and the unlimited license is the same price as the unlimited Plesk license. And then we have a 5-user license that's halfway in between those two things. So in terms of a control panel replacement, it really is competitively priced, so that if you're already offering control panels on these solutions today, this is just another selection, but you can really focus in on the need of the customer and tie it in. And at $50, it's certainly doable. I mean, we're talking about a very negligible portion of that $50.
Okay. Now, let's say I have a shared, and this is something that somebody submitted, one of the users or one of the attendees submitted as a question. Let's say that I'm a reseller of a shared hosting provider or of shared hosting packages. Would I then have to move to a provider that would offer a reseller version of this? Is it possible to be a reseller of Small Business Panel?
Yeah, actually, we have, in order to sell this particular product, you have to have at least VPS offerings, because it's for VPS and dedicated. And to do a VPS offering, obviously, would have to have a server that's devoted to that. Most of our providers have those available. If they don't, there are absolutely a bunch that do. You'd get a whole server that has VPSs. So it would be an additional, at least one server to your business to jump into this. I will note the functionality that we brought to this product. When we showed it to our shared hosting resellers, they're like, wow, my end customers would be really excited about having an interface like this. And so we took that to heart, and version 10 of Parallels Plesk Panel, which will be coming out in about the November-ish time frame, will have at the end user level a very similar interface to what you're seeing now in Small Business Panel. It will have some additional functionality that's specific to shared hosters, but it will primarily be the same kind of functionality. including the employee roles, the ability to control applications, the ability to have a really simplified and jargon-free interface, and those things will come to the shared interface. So we understand that even within that, matter of fact, I would say probably 95% of shared hosting customers are small businesses, maybe more, and certainly we're going to serve that customer base. Until then, what we have right now is this VPS and dedicated offering, so you'd obviously have to be able to offer VPSs and dedicated. And there are several of the data centers out there who actually now have very easy to adopt reseller models for selling dedicated servers. And so that would be very exciting for some of these, especially small shared hosting guys, to say, hey, I can offer a much more broad offering now if I partner with a couple of key companies.
John, let's say I'm
maybe a company they're already partnering with.
Let's say I'm a reseller of a company that I resell dedicated and VPS servers, and I want to offer SMB panel. Do I then have to license the panel directly from Parallels, or are there opportunities to license it through the company I'm already reselling?
No. In the case of some of these data centers, they're going to resell to you a whole server or VPS servers configured exactly how you want them, and that can include the small business panel. And so you would simply be rebuying them, and the control panel product would be already on the server as part of the setup with that. And it doesn't bother us at all if you're working through one of our partners. Actually, we would prefer it. If you're a small guy just getting started and you want to jump into this business, no better way than to have a somewhat managed server with somebody else until you can learn how to really get your support and management services in place. For those guys who are ready to make the jump, we certainly want to talk to you about partnering. As a matter of fact, we have a special offer right now for those customers who do want to partner with us, who have not partnered with us in the past. We have a 3-month free trial where they can come in, and normally if you partner with us, we have some sort of commitment levels. You have to commit to a certain amount of growth over a course of a year. We're going to remove those commitments from the interface of the reseller program for 3 months and let people really try it out. So if you've ever thought about partnering with Parallels that have worried about the commitments, this is a way to jump in now. And the other half of it is for those people who have not considered small business panel in the past and are willing to do it now, we have a special bonus. The marketplace, obviously, a good revenue stream for them. We're actually going to double the amount of royalties that we're going to pay through the marketplace program for the first 3 months that they have those small business panels in place. So I think that's really enticing in terms of people really, trying to offer this product.
Okay. We're actually about 10 minutes away from the end of the presentation. I don't know, John, if you wanna pass me back the controls, I can put your contact info up on the screen so that people can.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You need me to press it, or can you do it yourself?
No, I think I can do it myself here. So we're gonna do a Q&A. So if you haven't submitted your questions yet, you can feel free to do so now. I'm going to try to put some of these questions to John once again. If we don't get to all of them, we will have a record of all the questions, so hopefully John can follow up with you. Actually, I'm going to put him on the spot and guarantee that he will follow up with you after the fact.
I will.
Of course. So I'm going to make my my PowerPoint the thing here, and just put John's contact information up on the screen while we do some of these questions. So I guess one of the questions that came up, which I thought was interesting, was it related, I think, to the marketplace aspect of things. Well, I think it's a couple-part question. I guess the first part would be, what are the or is there a limit to the other applications you can add in beyond the basics? Control your email, manage your website, build your website, etc. So I guess the first part of the question is, what are the functions available through the pen? Like specifically, what are all the functions?
Well, the key functions are the file sharing ability, the ability to have our built-in site builder, the ability to have employee contact list, the ability to have all of the open source and paid for applications. And when we start digging into the applications, there's about 200 applications that are available from the APS catalog, most of them open source, some of them commercial trials. And they cover pretty much the broadest swath of applications you could ever want to deploy on a web presence. And so when we start talking about spreading out the functionality, we really have quite a bit to offer there. So in terms of, when you're marketing these things, you can market to particular niches. So some products really do meet some niches. For instance, there are some people out there who really like Mambo or Drupal or Sugar CRM, and these products are available for easy deployment inside of the small business panel. And so you can really start targeting those people who are interested in those products and still have a small business interface.
Okay, John, so there's a difference between the APS catalog and the marketplace within the panel, correct?
I prefer to look at it as that marketplace is really an extension of APS catalog. APS catalog has nothing but free free open source and commercial trial products in it. There is nothing in there that helps you buy a license. So if you do install one of these commercial trial licenses and you want the commercial license, you actually have to go find the vendor, you have to get the license key from them, and then you have to figure out how to upload it. What Marketplace does is really super simplify that. We're starting with these 6 vendors. We'll probably be about to 20 by the mid of this year, and we'll hope to expand out even further shortly thereafter. But we're proving the model right now, and what it basically does is it still does an APS install, but then it adds licensing to it. And the way that it works is that it will first go to, you'll first log into the panel. The panel will have all the marketplace applications listed in there. You'll click, oh, I want to buy this one. You'll be taken off to a branded storefront for the partner. It will then sell them the license key for that. That license key will then come back into the installation application. So as the thing's being installed, it actually grabs the license key and auto-installs that as well. Really super simple, so that the difference between installing a commercial application and a APS application has almost become the same exact thing.
Just to clarify also, sorry, to clarify, if I'm offering the SMB panel to a customer, and the customer is, in the course of using the panel, decides I'm going to buy a Pinnacle cart, for example, do I then get a commission on that without even having to really deal with it at all?
Yes. All of our partners who sign up to be on Marketplace, and you can turn Marketplace off if it doesn't fit your business needs, or if there's specific products within the catalog that compete with something you do or is not favorable to your business model, you can turn off specific applications or the entire thing, although we don't think that's a great idea for most people, because you might as well give people the opportunity to buy whichever way they can find things. But they will get a 25% commission on all the revenue that's generated through there. By the way, we handle all of the financial aspects of it. We're actually using a copy of Parallel's Business Automation, our own product, to manage the whole system. And all the partner has to do is receive their check once a month as they've rolled through their commissions.
Okay. I guess if you're a sorry, if you're a user of something other than Plus Panel, let's say some of the other things, I guess the specific question from user was dealt with HSphere. Is there an equivalent to this within the HSphere realm, or is this something that you might want to move from to the small business panel, or is there some kind of collaboration between the two that you can use?
It would definitely be a move from one system to the other. And specific regard to some of our legacy products, like HSphere, Helm, Parallels Pro, and so forth, we actually have a team that is responsible for building migration tools for those customers who are interested in moving to either of the Parallels Plus panel or the small business panel. And those will be released as we go forward. But those, I should also mention for the people who have those products right now, that those products are not end of life. We plan on continuing to support them. So you get best of both worlds. If you have customers that you want to move over to this product, you're going to be able to. We do not have specific dates. We're going to release them as they become available. That team has been tasked with going forward and making sure that, no matter which product you're on, you can move to the current products, including some of our competitors' products. So, you're going to see migration tools from competitive products as well.
Okay, I guess. Sorry. Some people, actually, a couple of people asked about whether it's possible to get their hands on the presentation, the slides. Now, I had actually I was going to follow up at the end and say that this webinar, sort of a recorded video of the entire webinar, audio included, will be available on the website next week. But if people want to get the slide deck directly from you, is that something that's possible, or can they do that?
No, that's definitely possible. Please send me an email to the contact info on the screen. I'd be glad to send it to you. Also, if you were at the summit, the Parallel Summit, a couple weeks ago, I gave a presentation that substantially takes from this material and actually has some further information in it, because it was at our summit, where I can be a lot more promotional, and talks about everything. And that presentation is actually on the Summit website now. So if you were at the Summit, you should have a username and password to access that information, and that presentation is already available to you there right now. This second.
Okay, I've got a couple more questions, but we're just a few minutes away from out of time, so we'll try to wrap this up with a few more questions. And I wanted to remind everyone once again that, as we've already guaranteed you, John will follow up with all the questions after the webinar. So he'll have the email address that you registered with and a transcript of your questions, so you'll get emails about this. But I guess somebody wanted to clarify that the small business, the customer that is buying the hosted control panel, they're not being billed. They're not seeing Parallels sending them a bill, right?
If they're going through Marketplace.
I guess if
I think the important distinction, we actually co-brand the invoices that come from the Marketplace. So there will be Parallels branding on those, because there has to be, because we're owning the merchant account that's coming off of. We're required to have our name on there as a matter of course. So that's co-branded, both companies, with it being very clear that Parallels is actually the one in charge of the billing relationship there. But in terms of people who are purchasing the product, just in terms of the product itself, that's completely brandable to the company who is offering it and so forth.
So as a small business, I'm just getting the bill from my provider. I'm not seeing Parallels on the bill per se.
Correct, with the exception if you have somebody who's purchasing something through Marketplace.
Right, and the panel itself, is it branded Parallels, or is that something that I can add my own branding to as a provider?
The store is branded for the company that we're working with.
Okay. Well, we're at 2 o'clock, so I think we might want to wrap this up. It's about all the time that we have. I want to thank everyone for attending and for submitting their questions. Of course, I'd like to thank John for presenting and for providing some insight into a topic that I think is of great interest to a lot of you guys. Once again, if your question didn't get answered, you can expect some follow-up, and of course, you can just send questions directly to John via the information that's provided there. Before we go, I want to remind everyone that an archived copy of the webinar and all of our previous webinars are archived at thewhir.com/webinars. Thanks again, John, for presenting, and thanks everyone for attending.